Hello, my name is Robert Reese. I'm here at the Denison Pequot Seapost Nature Center, and we are going to learn about animals as organisms. Organisms are all living things. That includes animals, it includes plants, it includes fungus, and like bacteria and things like that. So all organisms have to do these 5 things to be considered living things, right? To be considered alive. What does it mean to be alive, right? So 5 things. The first is breathing. All animals have to breathe, all organisms, right? Animals breathe oxygen. That could mean that like we breathe oxygen with our lungs, but other animals, if they look a little different, live in a different habitat, maybe they breathe oxygen with gills. What if they're underwater? They can't breathe like that, right? They need gills. So it's still breathing, right? So all animals breathe. All animals have to consume some sort of nutrients, right? Most of the time, that means we're eating either other animals or we're eating plants, right? All animals eat, have to eat, right? To be considered alive, you have to eat some sort of nutrient, consume some sort of nutrient. But it could look very different. For example, I might eat a combination of plants and animals, but other animals, like a butterfly, will only eat the nectar out of flowers, right? So here we go. All animals change and grow. They develop. They're not necessarily the exact same thing they were when they were first hatched or born. They don't necessarily look the same. They change. They grow. Maybe that means they just get bigger. Maybe that means that they start off as like a little tadpole and then they end up as a frog, right? Maybe that means that they go through some sort of complete metamorphosis like an insect, right? All animals have to reproduce. They have to make copies of themselves. Okay? Some of them lay eggs. Others give live birth. But either way, they have to make more of their species. All animals adapt to their environment. When it gets cold, what do? We put on a jacket. Okay, we don't freeze, we put on a jacket. Or we go inside. Let's see. Maybe it's like if you're a bird, maybe when it gets cold and there's no insects to eat, you migrate, you fly south. Or you switch diets and you start eating seeds, right? All animals have some way of responding to their environment, okay? So I have some animals to show you today, and I think you're going to like them a whole lot. Here we go. This is Coco. See what she's doing there? This is Coco. She is our milk snake. She's a beautiful snake. Now, Coco is obviously an animal, and she's obviously alive, which means she's an organism. And she does all of those things. She breathes through her nose. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but right at the end of her nose, there's 2 little dots right there on either side of where her tongue comes out. And she breathes through those nostrils there. And she has lungs, and they're really long. They're like that long. Okay, really long lungs. All of her organs are kind of stretched out in a long line. See that? Including her lungs. Okay? Snakes, for the most part, have one dominant lung, one big lung, and one smaller lung. Now, let's see. So she breathes air, just like we do. She inhales air, she uses the oxygen, and she exhales carbon dioxide, just like we do. She also eats. Now, she doesn't eat a combination of plants and animals. She eats only other animals. Snakes, all snakes are predators. Some snakes will eat invertebrates and insects and worms. Other snakes eat only birds or eggs or rodents. Now, Coco, right, she's a milk snake, and the way they got that name, milk snake, was from being found in dairy barns. And she wasn't after the milk. Instead, the snakes were after the little mice that were inside the barn as well as the cows. So, for the most part, these snakes are eating rodents. So, she has some cool adaptations to do that, one of which is her teeth. You can see, right? She doesn't have like huge jaws to chomp on things and to crush bones and things like that. She doesn't have that, and she's not venomous, so she doesn't have that going for her. But instead, she has teeth that face backwards, and so when she bites the mouse can't get away. And every time it tries to struggle back, the teeth actually go deeper into the mouse. Interesting. Now, that's Coco, the snake here. Now, she also changes and grows, right? When they're first hatched, because snakes lay eggs, you know. When they're first hatched, they're actually only about that long, about 5 inches long, okay? And they're really, really small. But they're born with, hatched with all the instincts they need to survive. They know what they can eat. They know what they can't. They know how to find it. They know all of these things. And so they don't need their parents at all. So some snakes actually give live birth. Other snakes lay eggs. Okay? So she starts her life as a little egg. Let's see. They all are able to change and adapt to their environment. You know, this little milk snake here, if it gets cold, like in the winter, in the fall, you know what she's going to do? She's going to hibernate. She's going to hibernate. That's her strategy. That's how she adapts. If sometime around October, when it really drops in temperature, she's going to find a little hibernaculum, which could be like a small cave or something like that underneath a ledge, or it could be a big hollow tree where they can go deep below the frost, and there might actually be hundreds of snakes all in the same hibernaculum, because a lot of snakes will hibernate together. Very cool. Here's one that's cool. This is a bullfrog. Now, this bullfrog has a completely different kind of life cycle. Instead of being a reptile, it's an amphibian, So it still lays eggs, but the eggs look completely different. Snake eggs are like this big, and they're rubbery and kind of white, right? Frog eggs, they lay their eggs in a big mass, right? So it's different, and they're really, really small, and there could be thousands of eggs in one mass. So that's amazing. Now, frogs breathe air, but not all the time. Sometimes they breathe with gills, don't they? Because they have a special life cycle where they start their life as tadpoles, and tadpoles have gills. So the same individual at one point breathed air with gills, breathed the oxygen with gills, and then later on as an adult breathes with lungs. Let's see, they eat, bullfrogs in particular, like to eat insects, but they'll also eat mice. They'll also eat tadpoles. Um, they'll eat pretty much anything they can fit in their throats. Okay? To do that, they have some really cool adaptations. Check this out. Now, he doesn't have very good throat muscles. He can't swallow like this, right? He can't do that like we do. He can't chew. He doesn't have any teeth or anything like that. But what he can do is use his front feet to push it down his mouth, right? And then he can use his eyeballs that go right into the roof of his mouth. So when he closes them, they go right into the roof of his mouth. And so he actually uses his eyeballs to push the food down his throat. Oh, whoa, whoa, slippery frog. All right. There's a good look at a frog. So he can push those eyeballs, or use his eyeballs to push the food down his throat. Um, and now, and then frogs also can adapt to their environment, right? They can adapt. So if it gets cold, they hibernate. And this frog in particular will hibernate in the mud at the bottom of a pond. And it'll take a breath, swim down to the bottom of the pond, and not take another breath for like 4 or 5 months. Wow, that's a lot. That's a long time to hold your breath. I have one more animal to show you, and I think you're going to like it. Now, this animal is a little screech owl. Her name is Willow, and Willow just laid eggs. Now, owls obviously are birds, right? And so birds do all of those things just like other organisms do. They're definitely alive. They definitely breathe. They definitely eat. She'll eat mostly mice. Screech owls will also eat other things like salamanders and snakes and worms and insects, even small birds, right? You see her bill there when she opens it up. There you go. She will grow and change. She starts off as a small egg. Owl eggs, by the way, are almost round, almost like ping pong balls. And so she starts off as an egg, and when she hatches, she has like downy fur, but it's feathers, but it feels like downy fur, like it feels like really soft fur, but it's actually just really, really soft, small feathers. And then later on in her first year, she develops these feathers, these adult feathers, and then every year they change out their feathers. They reproduce, obviously, by laying eggs, right? They also adapt to their environments, right? They also adapt to their environments. Now, birds need nests, right? But owls, for the most part, don't make nests. They actually use the nests of other birds. So she has to find a nest to lay her eggs in. She'll probably use a woodpecker hole. And then, in addition, if it gets cold, she stays active, right? She doesn't hibernate, right? Other birds will migrate. Some birds will fly thousands of miles to find food and warmth for the winter, and then fly north again to nest, and then do it again each year, right? Uh, Her case, right? Her diet might change, her habits might change, right? But she's going to stay active. In fact, her senses are so keen that she even can be successful hunting underneath the snow, even if she can't see it. So there is a little screech owl, and she is definitely the cutest little organism you've ever seen. Well, there you go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot about organisms and animals as organisms. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.